Hey you guys, it's Comedy Shorts Gamer here. Sorry. Today we're gonna be looking at The Boys. Nope, sorry. That's the only thing that gets me views, my bad. We're looking at Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, and I like it. They have seemingly done what everyone wanted them to do with the first season, and that's actually crush it out the fucking park. The season leading up to the finale keeps you on edge, with strong stakes being present early on, and a foundation that's so solid that when there is build up for the future, like way into the future, like another season or another movie, you don't really find it tedious or annoying. There are good character dynamics, an interesting battle of ideology, incredible acting, and world building that actually gets me excited for the street level future of the MCU. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there were parts of the season that did feel a little long. Alright, I didn't personally always enjoy Heather's Muse subplot, but not to say it's bad. I actually think it's kind of decent. There are some moments that I actually kind of enjoyed, but there are some moments that kind of get a little odd. There were other things like the conflict between Fisk and Matthew Lillard's character. I will just be referring to him as Matthew Lillard this entire video, even though I ultimately enjoyed the conclusion of his character and presence in the show because it sets up something huge for the future. I just don't really remember his name. There is really good work here with Daredevil, Bullseye, and Fisk, especially Bullseye. This season demonstrates the ending of Wilson Fisk's tyranny and his hold over New York. As mayor, his public image continually deteriorates, and his kingpin persona is slowly brought to the light. You know, there's a whistleblower leaking things to the public in a vendetta-esque manner. It's really just BB. Of course, his shady actions at the harbor were thwarted by our heroes, so that was also exposed. All the while, Daredevil's operating as normal, but Matt Murdock himself, after the climax of the last season, is actually MIA. He's in hiding. He and Karen get together in the meanwhile, and the two of them are, they're in hiding together, doing what they can. They're trying to make attempts at recon missions and all of that shit for the Resistance. But look, the best part of this season is Bullseye, okay? Wilson Bethel steals the fucking show. Every time he's on screen, he's the best. And, this is due to some complex character development and also mainly because of his charisma. I think he's done an incredible job. We end up rooting for this guy by the time he spoils the fun at Fisk's exhibition boxing match. Bullseye is facing this North Star conundrum and is on the precipice of being good in his own mind, in his own way. He's trying to do a good deed and balance the scales by killing Vanessa, and I guess his life becomes meaningless to him, like he was trying to die after. But Daredevil, after careful consideration, drawing on the hopefulness and overall goodness of Foggy Nelson, decides to help Bullseye not only recover from his wounds, but spare him imprisonment, developing an odd partnership. It's actually funny because with Karen, she wants to kill Bullseye to the point where she damn near shoots him if it weren't for Matt, and she's saying it's because of Foggy, right? Obviously, she's still upset and uses that as motivation, but there's an interesting dichotomy between her and Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock thinks of Foggy, and he thinks of Foggy as this hopeful person who would want him to spare Bullseye, as opposed to Karen, who draws on his memory to be like, yeah, I'm gonna kill this fucking guy. Lots of fun. Him and Karen also have this big conflict of what they want to actually do. She wants permanent solutions. He's like, nah, that's not it. We need to go through the fucking justice system. And you know what? I think it's really interesting for the time that it was present, and then it kind of just resolves as soon as she gets caught by the fucking task force. That's besides the point. In the weird partnership between Matt and Bullseye, we get some insight on Bullseye's psyche. He's gone through a bit of a transformation that seems like he could be approaching anti-hero territory. He's killing a bunch of Fisk's goons, and he's looking real good while doing it.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
I like this twist on Bullseye. In the comics, obviously, he's nothing like this, right? He's undeniably irredeemable. However, live-action Bullseye hasn't quite reached those same levels of insanity, and so his turn to a flawed sense of heroism is not only possible, but I actually think it works even better. In the TV show, we've come to understand Bullseye as Daredevil's opposite. He's kind of like his reverse Flash, except he's obviously not that fucking evil. He had a traumatizingly unorthodox childhood, similar to Matt, and the only difference, he had no genuinely good North Star in the way that Matt did, so he turned out to be a fucking psychopath. But then we witnessed as he was also manipulated and taken advantage of by Fisk and Vanessa. This eventually culminated in his spine getting fucking snapped. And since then, after he killed Foggy, did the cool fucking prison escape, we've all been wanting to see more of him in a way that made sense and actually made good use of his character, as opposed to just being this psycho who does some cool shit every once in a while. And I believe they really knocked it out the fucking park this season, because they develop his sense of justice and his drive to be good. And you know, at the end of this season leads me to believe that Bullseye might play a role in the future of the MCU, maybe even in movies, where he could be in the Dark Avengers and pretend to be Hawkeye, or he could join the fucking Thunderbolts. I wanted that. Okay, I'd love to see that. For me, I always associate Thunderbolts with Bullseye, and I also think he fits the team in a weird way. Obviously, he's a bit of a terrorist, but the team does not have a no-kill rule. Alright, and I'd love to see his interactions with other characters who've actually fully gone through change. The show also does some pretty neat world building. Matthew Lillard's character and his connection to Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and now Bullseye opens the cinematic universe up to an array of potential storylines, which I'd love to see materialize. The weakest part of this season for me was Heather's Muse storyline. That's not to say it's bad, just that, you know, she's traumatized by the events of Born Again Season 1 and is also a diehard Fisk supporter, like a fucking bum, but this season really shows her turning into Muse. It's of course a reference to the comics where Muse like possessed a woman, I think. I believe this is pretty cool. Okay, the only thing I don't like is the fact that she has no connections to art, and I really like that about Muse's character, the paintings and murals and shit. I think that she can maybe have a cooler spin on this. You know, she was a therapist before all this, and I think that with that, she can showcase some stress or implement some sort of mental health aspect. As we know, the original Muse in the MCU was coming to her for therapy, so if they were to incorporate some of that initial conflict reflected onto her, I think it would be pretty cool. Ultimately, the biggest thing for me was the finale, of course. This finale was a lot of fun, alright? Half of it is a courtroom drama featuring a Wilson Fisk monologue, you know, when I was a boy type shit. A battle of theology between Matt and Fisk, and a very, very cool use of the fact that Matt has some super hearing. Matt and the opposing counsel, they have a conference in the judge's quarters. Meanwhile, Fisk, who is seated at the witness stand, actually starts speaking, like normally, but quiet enough that nobody else in the courtroom could hear, but he knows that Matt can still hear him, so he's speaking with him to him. But then this results in the big reveal. Yeah, Matt just says, yeah, I'm Daredevil, turns his fucking walking stick into a baton, does some cool shit, and they're like, yeah, you got it. They win, Karen's good to go, and it's time for everyone to go home, but it's never gonna be that easy, because as they're leaving, Bullseye infiltrates Wilson Fisk's task force. They had this operation to kill Daredevil, aka Matt Murdock, as he was walking out. They were gonna shoot him, but when this fucking dickhead gives the green light to shoot, Bullseye, who's intercepted this operation, instead shoots Buck. It's pretty goated stuff, and this results in the mayor pulling up at the court with his team, and eventually protesters storm the place in support of Daredevil. Daredevil's fighting task force guys. Fisk is literally brutalizing protesters, and the two of them eventually meet in this big dramatic showdown where a bunch of protesters start jumping the shit out of Fisk, like they're about to kill him, and Daredevil saves him, and they both agree to fuck off. Alright, Daredevil is going to prison, and Fisk is leaving New York. He's living a life of loneliness instead of the solitude we've seen other villains enjoy. Fisk is alone with nothing. His everything, Vanessa, she's dead as fuck. Like, I don't exactly believe that this was the perfect end to their conflict. I'd have liked to have seen Fisk in prison so that he could remain a part of the street level environment of the MCU. However, what I do like is the fact that this finale confirms that Daredevil is going to be in Brand New Day. Alright, this isn't a surprise to anyone. You had people doing breakdowns of the trailer pointing out the fact that this trailer's clearly removing someone's presence in the prison scene with the hand. And also, let's be real, nobody truly believed that a movie featuring Spider-Man, Punisher, Hulk, as well as a fucking villain group that Daredevil's notoriously fought would just leave out Daredevil. I'm even more excited for that movie now, which I didn't even think was possible, but I'm also really happy with the way the show elevates the potential of the MCU. You've got Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, who we assume will be putting in some work later on. You've got Bullseye with Matthew Lillard, and you've got Daredevil in jail, who's soon to be with Spider-Man. I think the season was a dramatic step up in quality from the last season, and while I personally enjoyed last season's Muse storyline and some of the stuff with Bullseye, this season takes it all to a whole new fucking level. They even give depth to side characters like Heather and Bullseye. It operates with greater stakes as well. They kill people and they expand the universe. It's a lot of fun, and honestly I'd rank this among the better Disney plus Marvel movie shows. It's pretty cool. It kind of gets freaky, but that's okay. Yeah, give it a shot. Thanks for watching, and that's pretty much it.